Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome. This is Matthew Msingati, the hybrid, the designer, and a developer. Thank you so much for clicking this video. This is a GraphQL series, but it's very important for me to tell you who is this series for and who this series is not for, so that if it's not for you, respectfully and understandably, you can quickly skip the series and go to some other videos. This series, it's not about Visual Studio Code. It's not about the technicality of GraphQL. We are not going to code at all. It is not about Apollo server. It's not about the resolvers. It's not about technically the code. But this video, it's about the concepts. To make it clear to you, why it is that you can follow a tutorial through and through and finish the project, and when you run it, it works perfectly. But when it comes to you doing your own project, then things are starting to be a little bit difficult. The other guy said, I think it was Redix, he said that I have been following a lot of tutorials, but it looks like I can't create my own thing, and I really don't understand why. As for me, learning from YouTube and internet, I exactly knew what he meant. When you follow somebody coding, you are learning. Yes, I don't dispute that, but you are learning the syntax. You are not learning the concept. Let me hit the point home. Somebody who has learned the syntax, who has followed a technical video on GraphQL on YouTube, they can produce a working class module or a function. They can code, but they are not able to answer interview questions. Something that also I've struggled with in terms of CSS and JavaScript. I knew how to create functions and how to make apps with JavaScript and CSS. But the other day I got an international interview. The questions were somewhat difficult, if I can be honest, because there I was not being asked CSS properties, how to do these questions that feels like they are high school questions just to test your rationale. No, I was being asked on the overall understanding. The employer wants to see, do I understand the concept? This series, it's about that concept, the GraphQL concept. So if you are looking for a video where you are going to code, I am sorry, and I understand if you might skip this video. I want to ban the concept of GraphQL so that when you are following another video that teaches you the syntax, it might feel familiar. My point number one, as you can see, I don't have a point where I'm asking what is GraphQL. I don't want you to describe GraphQL because I would like to believe the creators of GraphQL have a better definition for it. Google has a better definition for it than me. If Google doesn't work, we've got ChatGPT. ChatGPT can give you a very clear and a succinct definition. Hence, I don't have point number one, which asks, what is GraphQL? I want you to feel that you understand GraphQL. You cannot really come up with a definition in terms of the English language, but you feel like you know it through and through. This is when you understand the concept. Without wasting time, let's just jump to point number one. This is how I'm going to get and ban the concept into your mind. Where does it fit? Where does GraphQL fit into a stack of technology? Okay, we've got a stack of technology. What do I mean by that? We've got MongoDB, we've got Express.js, we've got React.js, we've got Node.js. There's a lot of things going on in technology. But where does GraphQL fits in there? Picture a spider web, okay? Whenever you see a spider web, somewhere in that web, you will see where the spider is. In most cases, it's always sitting in the center. I want you to spot GraphQL, where it fits in this tech stack. For me, that will help you to understand the concept of GraphQL and the problem it's trying to solve. In continuing from this point number 1, I would like to quote the famous Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs once asked, and he said, this is very important. As Apple, as a company, as a brand, we wanted to know, where do we fit in this noisy world? Okay, meaning that understanding the location, in our case, in terms of concept, where GraphQL fits into a tech stack, okay, it's very important so that you can understand the concept. Point number 2, what problem is it trying to solve? This question, or the answer to this question, will get you to be part of a conversation. If you are a coder, you are technical, you know how to code and create beautiful apps or functional apps, you might lose sight of a conversation. Maybe you have seen in the industry or in YouTube, there is GraphQL, GraphQL, GraphQL. You go and watch the video, but you can't get into the conversation. If two guys or two programmers have a conversation around GraphQL, you don't feel like you can say something, okay? It's because you are a syntax developer. You know the syntax of it, but you don't understand what GraphQL is trying to solve. Hence, you have eliminated yourself from the conversation. So, in this series, I will discuss what problem is GraphQL trying to solve. Number 3, the techniques used to solve the problem. Every library, every piece of technology, beyond just becoming a programming language or a library, it's a school of thought. It's a certain way of doing things. React, it's an idea, it's a suggestion, it's some sort of an opinion about what we can do as a industry to improve ourselves or to make things better. GraphQL is not different. It's some sort of a certain concept, okay? So, meaning that I'm going to talk about the techniques that GraphQL is using, okay? So, the more you understand those techniques, okay, and the angle at which GraphQL is coming from, that will serve as a solid foundation to understand the syntax when you are actually coding. When you watch a GraphQL tutorial or a video, you will always feel confused about the resolvers, about the Apollo server. You can't really fit in. As you are still looking at that now, there is MongoDB, and then somebody will tell you that you cannot only use MongoDB, you can use another database management system. So it's a lot of things. When you don't know the concept, the technique used to solve the problem that GraphQL is solving, the syntax might be difficult for you to understand. And also, you cannot take some sort of a full use of GraphQL. Point number 4, affected concept. As I am telling you that concepts are important, there are concepts that GraphQL is affecting, or some sort of GraphQL is a node in a network of concept. So there are concepts that GraphQL is some sort of working with, some others is disrupting, some others is crashing at all. It's very important to understand what are the concepts that are involved. So I've got a list of concepts that are involved. This is not limited to this list. There's a lot of concepts, but these are important for you to understand and master GraphQL. For instance, API. API is affected by GraphQL because GraphQL is coming with a certain way of doing things around the API. Data fetching. GraphQL is coming with a certain way of doing things when it comes to data fetching. So data fetching is a concept that is affected, okay? It's in the same network on which GraphQL is trying to shake or is trying to improve. Data structure. When I mean data structure, I'm just talking about the database itself. Like we've got your MySQL, we've got your NoSQL databases, we've got your MongoDBs. Okay, so every database has got a certain structure, or let me just use the term schema. Okay, so GraphQL is part of that. It's improving it. It's working towards making it easier. Okay, I'm going to talk about concept on point number 4. Concept like underfetching and overfetching. Obviously at point number 5, schemas and resolvers. When you were in primary, okay, in primary school, the technique that the school system is using, even though to us as the enlightened or the elite guys, we always feel like the education system is slowing us down because we want to get our hands dirty to do something. We always ask questions like, why do I have to sit and study X and solve for X and the theorem of Pythagoras instead of getting into the real world and solve the real problem? The most phenomenal thing about the education system, even though we always feel like it's low, it's very good on taking a student from the known to the unknown. The school system is taking a learner through a journey of what is familiar to the student, taking them slowly, step by step, slowly but surely, to an advanced and unfamiliar world. Okay, the system doesn't just push you from 0 to grade 12 or grade 11 or to form 2 or to a higher level or pushes you to varsity, because that's a swift transition. But they start with what you know and what is familiar to you, and they will take you step by step until you get the idea. Okay, it's like they are feeding the inner eye of understanding. If you want to know what is the inner eye of understanding, it's when you are talking to John trying to explain calculus or physics or programming. When John says, oh, I see, that's what I mean about the inner eye of understanding. Most YouTube tutorials, they don't feed that inner eye, but it's do what I do, follow me, do this and do that, code this is the error, solve it like this. Here I want you to get the concept so that you can be fit and ready to answer the interview question, because in the interview the employer wants to understand that, do you understand the concept, so that when the problem presents itself different from the video that you have learned on YouTube, you could be able to generate your own unique ideas and solve the problem. In closing, I am going to quote the famous Jim Rohn. He says, don't be a follower, be a student. Take what you have been given, make it your product of your own conclusion. I'm Matthew the Hybrid, the designer and developer. See you on the next one.